Hi, my name is Dimitri Khalezov, and today is 20 of July 2026. And today we will have a conversation with Mr. Zeev Ben Levi, our guest, who has some questions to discuss. Welcome, Mr. Zeev. Your words.
Hello, Dimitri. First, let me read a short review I made of your book. Dimitri Khalezov wrote his book is a detective story without fiction. It is also, for me, the Matrix story without the fiction. And 1984. By God's grace, when I first read 9/11 I suddenly realized what I was reading. A different way of thinking, an honesty not found anywhere else, like written from a place or time when men were free. It is about 9/11 and about the important things a man should talk about. So it was a valuable thing I had in my hands. I perceived this generosity towards me, the reader, that I just felt the duty to pay for its price, the moral thing, the honorable thing to do. Throughout the years, I learned also that the cost of freedom requires the biggest efforts ever. And I won't exaggerate by saying I had no chance to discover all these facts, evidence, explanations, history, and righteousness without 9/11 theology. A book of revelations, truths, and honor. Hello, Dimitri.
Okay, that's a very high estimate of my humble work, I think, but I'm glad that.
Yeah, and talking about patricians, what do you think about this picture of Elon Musk with his nice jacket, which reads Novus Ordo Seclorum? Here it
Uh,
is.
mm,
I don't know if you have seen it already.
so what exactly the question is? I'm sorry.
Well, what is your thoughts on Elon Musk and
On
his
Elon Musk,
doings?
you mean?
Yes, Elon Musk and his doings in this new world order.
Oh, I believe it's not him. I believe that the new world order is made by the Freemasons, and they started to make that so-called new world order a long time ago, more than 200 years ago, actually. I mean, no, more than 250 years ago, I believe. So they started it shortly before creating the United States of America as a state, as a sovereign. So their design is that, I think maybe you understood it from my explanations, that the God wants people to live according to the God's law and so to be slaves of God. To the contrary, Satan wants people to be slaves of someone else, but not of God. So the good biblical example of a slavery that is not under God was the Egyptian slavery, where the enslaved people became slaves of the Pharaoh and the ancient Egypt. So that what the Freemasons wanted to recreate as a new world order is the Egyptian slavery on a global scale, so that all the descendants of Adam would become slaves of the Freemasons and not of God. Uh, to achieve that, they created a lot of sovereign states in the form of juristic persons, because you know that every modern sovereign state, like in the form of republic or a constitutional monarchy, is basically a juristic person, is a company, which has its own president, as every company must have a president, or the constitutional monarch, which is another type of a president. And they have the board of directors, which is the board of ministers or the cabinet of ministers. And sovereignty belongs to, in this case, sovereignty belongs to a juristic person, not to a physical person as it must be. So in this case, all those who are under the state sovereignty lost their own freedom to the state. And the state, because it's a company, it must have the shareholders, is owned by the Freemasons in most cases. So in these cases, the Freemasons owned people through the means of the state. And what you call the New World Order, in fact, is a wrong translation, because what they write in the $1 bill, you can see the Great Seal of the United States on the $1 bill. It is written there, Novus Ordo Seclorum, which
Yeah,
many people
that is what
mistakenly translate as a New World Order. In fact, it is not the right translation, because the Latin word seclorum translates to English as a secular. So it is not
yes,
the New
exactly.
World Order, it is a new secular order. And the secular means something that has nothing to do with God. Because when something has to do with God, they say godly or religious or divine or sacred or something like that. So, but when they want to emphasize that something has nothing to do with God, they will use the word secular. Secular means ungodly. That's against
Yes,
God.
of course.
So that means what you translate as the New World Order should be in fact translated as a new ungodly order.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's why I was asking about this. Uh, well, let's say high-ranking person who is in the government and is bold enough to put in his jacket Novus Ordo Seclorum as as portraying a secular new era.
And who did that?
I told you this guy Elon Musk.
No, because can you show me? No, because it doesn't fit in the camera. Can you move it? Can you move it to the middle? No, more to the middle, to the middle. No, and the other way. Okay, like that.
This That is Elon Musk with a jacket which reads Novus Ordo Seclorum.
Okay, clear.
So that's why I wanted to ask you your opinion about this particular thing. Of course, he knows that what is he wearing, but many people are not aware of the nature of the word
I,
secular.
I don't know about his particular role, but what I know about him that he is a kind of refugee from the South African Republic, because I think he's originally from South African Republic, who moved to America when the life in the South African Republic became like too hard for the white people. And when he arrived to America, that was already over 200 years that America was the center around which the Novus Ordo Seclorum is being built. Do you understand that America is 250 years old as of today? I mean, the United States. So that means
Yes.
Elon Musk arrived to America how many years ago? 20, 30, I'm not quite sure. Not so long time ago. It means he arrived after more than 200 years. This process already started. So I don't think that he is anything that is like a governing force. I think he just joined this group. And I believe that because he joined them, they give him a lot of, how to say, green light and preferences in business so that he can become very successful in his undertakings and so on.
Right.
But I
Yes,
don't think that he is a big boss. I think he is just a young guy who just joined the big group that existed before him.
Yes. And about his undertakings, he has the AI too. And about this topic, I wanted to ask you. You have in your Russian channel a video when you talk with this GPT. How was it?
What do you mean about the chat?
The GPT, the AI?
Yes, I know the
I
AI GPT. And then?
I think you made a video when you were discussing some topic with this technology.
I can't remember. Actually, I never talked to any AI by myself, but sometime I published the results from the chats GPT or some other AI tools made by other people who just send that to me. But myself, I have never done that. I'm too
All
busy
right.
for to spend my time talking to the artificial intelligence. So
Yes, yes, I know. Well, the impression I got with this AI when I was talking with it, it's like if I was talking to a beach. Yeah.
no, so far I
But,
talk only to the live person. I did not come to that point yet to talk to the artificial intelligence. But some of my listeners on my channels, they do, and sometimes they send me the proceeds of their conversation.
well, yes, I use it like a search tool, but of course I won't do it again. Well, the next question is about something in your book. I wanted to know that about your friend's contribution, Vadim Alexandrovsky. You
Yeah.
mentioned him as a co-author of your book, so certainly he had very interesting views too.
Okay.
So, could you talk about it?
Oh, Vadim Alexandrovsky was my friend from a very long time ago. I knew him from the late 80s, still in Moscow. And we had a lot of, how to say, business in the old days together. And we continue it for a while in the 90s and also in the early 2000s. And eventually he decided to relocate to Thailand, where I live also. And
Right.
because he, how to say, he was, he had a good connections with some Freemasons due to
Right.
some strange circumstances. And through Vadim, Freemasons managed to reveal certain things. So, and he was also eager, to how to say, to discover things. Because when I started to work on my book on 9/11, I didn't know much, to be honest. All I knew is that under the World Trade Center, under the Twin Towers, the building 7 was not even built yet by that time. All I knew, as a matter of fact, that under the Twin Towers there was special emergency demolition scheme, which I call it, which was based on the underground nuclear charges of high yield. But I knew only that, nothing else, just very limited knowledge, only as a fact. Okay. For example, I
All
didn't
right.
know what hit the Pentagon. I didn't know where they got the missile that hit the Pentagon. And it was a very special knowledge that I obtained later through some special means. And some other things that managed to, I mean, helped me to enrich my original knowledge and to transform it into a book of 1,500 pages almost. So my knowledge was, as I told you, very, very limited. Just about the matter of fact that I knew about the nuclear demolition scheme of the Twin Towers and nothing more than that. And this I also, because I, as I told in my book that during my military service in the Soviet army, I used to serve in the what they call Soviet Special Control Service, which was a special service to detect nuclear explosions. And my knowledge about the nuclear demolition scheme of the Twin Towers in New York came from that service, actually. But that was just the only small things that I knew, nothing more than that. But to transform this into the what I wrote in the 1,500 pages book, it required a lot of additional knowledge and additional research and
Yes, of course.
yeah. Okay. So in this, the role of Vadim Alexandrovsky was very important. So, for example, if not him, I would never know what hit the Pentagon. I mean, the missile that hit the Pentagon, and a few more things. So, but
So he was like an insider then.
can't say that the insider because, but he has some special connections among the Freemasons from where he can get certain things. Okay, I would say this way.
But yeah, I remember you mentioned also that he hated the Freemasons too.
Yeah, he hated them for sure.
But
He
he had
hated them
that connection.
absolutely, but he still had the connections.
All right, all right. Well, talking about slaves, I want to ask you, how do slaves' appearance have changed until today? For example, today's fashion of tattoos. What do you
Uh,
think?
what do you mean exactly?
Well, that in old times, for example, people uh, have a sense to dress and
You mean
today
how they changed the outward to outward
yes, yes,
appearance?
their appearance. For
Oh,
example,
look,
today they wear shorts.
you can discover it by yourself because in YouTube now there's a lot of there's a lot of videos like documentary videos and amateur videos of the recordings of the street. Let's say that exactly today, accidentally, I found a video dated 1989 showing people in the capital of Uzbekistan, Tashkent. Okay, like 20 more minutes video. And it's a quite, I would say, warm country. It's hot in the late in the summertime, and most of the people are still dressed nicely. You don't see, oh, basically you don't see people in the blue jeans. Not to say about shorts, okay? Everybody is dressed nicely. Half of the people wearing jackets despite of the hot weather, and this just they look like humans, okay? So you can find videos of, let's say, showing the streets of New York of maybe in the middle of 60s. You will see that everybody is dressed nicely, everybody wearing jacket. Half of the people still wearing some cap or maybe hat on their head. And if you go back to the 50s, you will see that almost everyone wearing hat on their head.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So, and if you go to see the streets of, let's say, some American city in the early 70s, yeah, you will see that the dress changed a little bit, became a little bit more liberal, but you still not see people wearing the blue jeans a lot. You will still see people wearing the normal trousers and good shoes. You will not see the people wearing the sports shoes in the city because that was considered improper and so on. But
Yes,
today,
yes.
but today, you can see people just in the capital cities wearing not only wearing a sports shoes as a casual shoes. You will see that they are wearing shorts. They can wear the blue jeans and not just the proper blue jeans, but the torn blue jeans. Okay, so means
Yeah, I'm
the
sorry.
appearance become like how to say I forgot the English word. It's just like a challenging. They
like a bomb
they challenge the rules, and I don't know why they should. Okay, I can understand that someone might have reason to challenge the rule, but that should be like a few person might challenge the rules for some particular reason. But what we see now is that the absolute majority is trying to challenge rules, and that doesn't make sense. So if you mean that.
Well, maybe has to do with the new mentality. For example, well, I want to ask you about the childish adults, the perpetual children. Could you talk about this phenomenon?
Yes, you can see that there was some change in the how to say. Okay, when the children before, I mean like 30, 40, 50 years ago, when at a certain age, a small boy became a young adult man, you can see the abrupt change. Yesterday he was still a boy, and tomorrow he is already a young man. And it was obvious. And the same thing also applies to the girls. Yesterday she was a girl, today she is a woman. And after that, despite their young age, they were treated as adult. So before it was like that, typically, because all women were expected to be virgins before their marriage, and the marriage was obligatory. Before marriage, the women were considered like girls. After the marriage, they were considered the women. Okay? And if we talk about the men, because before the military service was, I mean, the conscription was obligatory in most of the countries, until a certain age, boys were boys, but once they joined the army and they spent a few years in the army, and when they are discharged from the army, they are considered as adult. So there was like a border that used to separate the boys from the men and the girls from the women. For the girls, that was the marriage and the status of the married woman, and for the boys, that was the army in most cases. Okay, so then appeared some kind of first change. I think that started in the 40s, I believe, or maybe in the 50s. Because the high education, I mean, the craving for a university diploma became widespread around the world. It started to change something. Instead of going to the army, before it was very simple. A typical boy finished the school and goes to the army. He came back from the army, he is already an adult man. Okay?
All right.
But after that, because of the abnormal crave for the higher education and for the university diploma, there were created a lot of unnecessary universities around the world, here and there. And a lot of professions that do not require higher education begin to be added to the higher education. Like before, you know that before a university education was required for a very limited professions. Engineer, doctor, maybe musical composer, or just like a few professions, not really many. Like people who is involved in the law didn't have the higher education. The people who involved in the psychology didn't need the higher education. The trade, they don't need the higher education. But now the university diploma is offered just to everyone, like a management. Why the manager need the university diploma? It doesn't make sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, just now almost every kind of the profession, including the trimming of the cat's nails or maybe designing the packaging for the cat food, might require a higher education and a university diploma. Do you understand what I mean? Yeah. So that is a very, how to say, unhealthy approach to the education. So this approach started, I believe, in the late 40s or maybe in the early 50s, and slowly it affected the whole world. So they created a lot of universities, and the people started to enter these universities on a big scale. So as a result, there were created a new group of the people that were like students, because the student is someone who is already not child and not yet adult, because he or she is not making own money yet, but by the physiological age they are already could be over 20. Means
Yeah.
that is the time to marry and to have like 3 or 4 children already in the norm with the normal people, but they are still students. Okay, so as a result of
Yes.
this, the exact border that used to separate the children from adult begin to be, how to say, not so clear because of the students. That border before was just like as narrow as one single day. So like yesterday you are a boy and tomorrow you are a man, or yesterday you are a girl and tomorrow you are a woman. So before it was just a one day, and now it become like a 5 years of the university course, or sometimes 6 years, sometimes 10 years, because many people feel that the one university is not enough to them, and they want to finish the 2 university courses, and sometimes even 3. Okay, so as a result they miss the exact point when they should become adult and feel themselves adult, and when they found that they are already 25 and 27 and 32, they still not feel that they are adult, because everybody around them is similar. They don't have the feeling that they are adult anymore, and because they lost that feeling, they will never regain it, because before, the sex, I mean, the sexual intercourse was only for the adult people. I mean, the boys and the girls were not allowed to have sex. Just no, absolutely no. If you are married, yes, you can have sex. Okay. But with this kind of change, when the students become like 19 years and 20 years old and 22 years old and 25 years old, and they are not married, they begin to have sex without the marriage and without the obligation and without connection to the marriage. So the last thing that used to separate the adults and the children completely disappeared. And the children started to have sex because it was no longer prohibited as early as they just become physiologically fit for that. Like when they become 14 years old or 15 years old, they might have sex already. Okay. And they continue and
Right.
continue, but they miss the point at which point they must become adult. Okay. So they become like eternal children allowed to have sex.
Yes.
Okay, so finally they become like 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, but they not feel adult anymore.
Yes.
Okay, so okay, so that's one of the reasons.
Yes, and that leads to very decadent society.
Yes, of
If
course.
let me read this passage from the Holy Scripture, which talks about this. I found this in the book of Job. It's a passage. In the days when God watched over me, nobles held back their words. They clapped their hands to their mouths. I clothed myself in righteousness, and it robed me. Justice was my cloak and turban. But now those younger than I deride me, men whose fathers I would have disdained to put among the dogs of my flock. They are driven out of society. They are cried at like a thief, scoundrels, nobodies. They were the children of fools, children of base men, stricken from the earth. And then Job continues. But I think it is like this in these modern times when slaves are, are no longer respecting the elder.
And you also can see this by the changing in the name structure. If you take America, the presidents of America before Bill Clinton, they were still adult men, like the old style adult men. You remember how they look like and how they feel like. Okay.
Yeah, like Bush.
Yeah, the elder Bush was still adult man, and
Yes, of
everyone
course.
before him also. Okay,
Yeah.
so when Bill Clinton came, Bill Clinton didn't look like eternal child, but he looked like something in the middle. Okay, he's already not called fully adult, but not yet the eternal child. Something
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
student, something like a student. And notice something important. He was the first
exactly.
American president whose full name was not necessarily to be pronounced. You remember that he was not called William, he was called Bill officially.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Why? You understand the difference? Because when you are a boy, you can be called Bill or Bob or whatever, Dick,
Yeah, yeah,
John.
yes,
Okay, but when you are adult and you are holding the highest position in the state, you cannot called by as a boy. But Bill Clinton was the first man who was officially called Bill, not
yeah,
William. You remember? And the
yes,
presidents before him, if you look at the American presidents before Bill Clinton, they were all called by the full name, in fact. They
yes,
started to they started trying to call Ronald Ron and James Carter Jimmy. Yes, they tried, but that was just a trying only. Okay, but before them, it was absolutely impossible. Every American president must have the full name, full Christian name. Okay, but after
yes,
Bill Clinton, it changed. Everything changed. And that was done, in
yes,
fact, on purpose because the Freemasons wanted to adjust the perception of that. You remember what they forced the Bill Clinton to have in the oval cabinet in the White House with Monica
how?
Lewinsky. You
Ah,
remember?
yes, of course, they try to imply that a little clerk,
Yeah, yeah,
an
yeah. This
employee,
story. Yes.
could
Okay.
challenge
Okay. So
a
look,
very president.
that is not behavior of the adult. You understand? That is the behavior of the student. Only the students can do that kind of thing. Because the
Yes,
adult people would not do that. Okay, if they are married, they will just go and to have that with their wife. And if they want to have that outside of the marriage, they will go to the public house and have that with the prostitute. Okay, but they would not do that just in the place where they work or study. This is not the behavior of the adult man. Okay, so the
yes,
Freemasons, they just wanted to show off that the Bill Clinton is some kind of like a no more adult. And the next president, the younger Bush, you remember how he looked like? He didn't look like adult anymore.
yes, of course.
Okay. And the next
And that
after
was
him,
also an
it,
example of
okay.
the population too.
Okay. And now no one in America is called by the full Christian name anymore. Everyone is called like a Bill, Dick, and so
Yeah,
on.
Bobby,
Bob.
yeah,
Okay.
Bobby
So end
Kennedy,
of the
yeah,
story. Okay. So the uh, even the perception of them is no longer as adult until they die from the old age. They will not even be entitled to be called by the full Christian name. In fact, in Russia is similar because in Russia before Gorbachev, everyone who is like 21 years old or older must be called by the name and the patronymic father name, like your
yeah,
name, like Azeev Ben Levi. Okay, similar to that one. I mean, let's say that you are Alexander and your father name is Ivan, so you must be called Alexander Ivanovich. Okay, so like
yeah,
that. Okay, and that was an absolute standard. But Gorbachev managed to push through the mass media the abolition of this tradition. So in Russia, the people who get the patronymic before Gorbachev, they still have it until today. But anyone who is a younger, in their document, the patronymic is still written for the police, but it's not pronounced anymore. So the people begin to call themselves like just by the first name only. And they continue irrespective of the age. So they could be 20 years old and 30 years old and 40 and 50 and 60, but they will never get back the manner of addressing them as an adult man before Gorbachev, okay? So basically, like before Gorbachev time, if someone is just called Alexander, the people will understand that this is probably a guy who is not older than 18 years old, okay? Because if he were older than 18, he would be called by the Alexander plus patronymic. But now they
Yes.
didn't have that anymore. So they just be Alexander forever, okay, until he is 90 years old. Okay, so
And
this one also adds to the same thing, to the perception of that they are not adult. Same like in America. In America, they didn't have the patronymic. So they had to resort to reducing the full Christian name to the short name, like Bill instead of William, or let's say Bob instead of Robert, or whatever, Dick instead of Richard.
yes.
But in Russia, that would be the second step, because they still have the other step to go. They have to abandon the patronymic first and call only the full name. So their next step will be the same as in America by reducing the full Christian name to the short name. Let's say Sasha instead of Alexander, or let's say Slava instead of Vyacheslav. They already started to do that, in fact, but it didn't work yet. But they already started.
And it's part of the enslaving of all the world.
It's not a part of enslaving, but I believe that the Freemasons just try to adjust the properties of the slave to their actual status.
All right. And what about the people who ruled his life with codes of honor, like samurais, the mafias, the Sicilian? What about those principles and concepts are no longer counted
I didn't quite
into the
understand the
world?
question.
Really, with all this of the patronymic and
Hmm?
the childish adults, are any room for real mafias, for example? Is possible that a real uh, samurai or mafia like the
Uh,
Sicilians
I think
can
samurais in
prosper?
Japan, they don't have rooms to live anymore, because
No, of
Japan
course.
is no longer an empire. It's just like an American colony, in fact, in the form of republic. They have emperor, but in fact, despite of having emperor, Japan is not empire. And and if we talk about Russia, yes, there was some mafia. It used to be, and it used to be very traditional and very strong, but it was not able to survive over end of the 80s, I believe. Now is in a very bad
Yeah, yeah,
shape.
that is what I mean. That the real mafias are now extinct, isn't it?
Yeah, it is now is almost extinguished. It still exists, but the problem is that they abandoned all their rules. Like before, mafia in Russia had to deny the state in fully. So
It's
like a mafia member could not approach an authority and say, "Look, I need a passport to go abroad." They cannot do that. Okay, they can only steal someone's passport and change their photograph and go under some other name. That's the maximum they could afford themselves. But now they allowed themselves to go to the cops and to ask them for the passport, to ask them for driving license, to have their own car registered with their name and so on. And they become like a half integrated into state, and they involved in the official business where they pay taxes and so on and so on.
yeah.
So it means they are already almost extinguished.
Oh, yeah, that was very sad.
Yes, but that's the end of the world, I believe.
And well, if there are only slaves today, what can someone do? Is there any, let's say, a rogue state or some place that still resist?
Still receive the people who run away from their slave owner, you mean? That you mean?
Yeah,
Or
what about some theocratic society? Like I see the Chechens like kind of theocratic society.
okay. Let me explain to you because many people don't realize the cheating. Okay, the only attempt to create the truly uh, theosophic state in the 20th century was the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979 under the leadership of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini.
Yeah.
And why it was successful? Because they did not go halfway, they went the full way. So they declared that the fundament of Islam is by no means the Quran. They say the fundament of Islam is the Old Testament, the Torah, the Torah. That's why actually they were called Islamic fundamentalists because they claim that. So
The fundamental.
they
Yeah.
immediately put enforce all those Old Testament requirements in the jurisprudence. So they declared that the women were slaves of men. Okay, the women had no right to divorce. They, of course, reestablished the right of a man to have as many wives as he wants without limiting them by the number four, by the digit four, like the Sharia law tries to do. Okay,
Yes.
they claim that every free man has a right to have the unlicensed firearm. That's why at the earlier days of the Islamic Revolution, every man must have or at least could have the AK-47, not registered with the COP. Okay, and more than that, they say that the man could have a part of the wives. He could have a temporary wife, it means concubine. And more than that, the women who did not follow the Islamic rules could have been captured and enslaved because you know that in the proper Islam, a warrior could capture an enemy woman and make her his concubine. Okay, so they,
Yes.
they even established that rule that all those women who politically resist the state could be captured by the righteous men and transformed into their concubines just because they're enemies of the state. I mean, they went as far as that. Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
in the Torah it is stated also that when a man see a woman that he likes, he can take her
yes, but
as
that
a
providing that is
captive.
the enemy woman, not the wife or the daughter
Yes,
of your
the
neighbor.
enemy
Okay.
woman.
Yeah, we talk
Yes.
about enemy woman. Yes. So in Iran they did exactly that. But the problem is that the Islamic Revolution was based on just only one figure, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini himself, an old man born back still in the 19th century. So once he died, and he died in 1989, the Islamic Revolution was abandoned just in the same year because the Freemasons heavily penetrated the leadership of the Islamist party in Iran, and they forced them to abandon the Old Testament and to convert to what they call Sharia law, which is the Freemasonic tool to enslave the people. So after that, Iran practiced
Yes.
the Sharia law for the next 35 years. And finally, they're about to abandon it now. So for many stupid people, the current modern Iran, nowadays Iran, looks like a revolutionary state because of their pseudo-revolutionary rhetorics. But in reality, is the counter-revolutionary state for the last 36 years. And they already betrayed all the achievements of the Islamic Revolution, and they are about
Yes.
to become a secular state officially. So what they are doing with the America, they are not resisting America. They are just playing the show for the stupid people. Because the America is run by Freemasons, and Iran also run by the Freemasons. Okay, so now coming back to your question, is there any rogue state still in the earth today that could provide the freedom for runaway slaves? Of course not, because the last such country was theoretically Iran in between 79 and 1989, but not anymore. And there were no more countries like that. Because all those countries that are called rogue now, like North Korea or similar, they are just totalitarian communist state, which just has nothing to do absolutely with freedom. And they do not even officially believe in God, because in countries like North Korea, the Bible is prohibited, by the way, because their God is the dead president.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have seen that Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini was very interested in art. Apparently, he wrote poems. And, so the next topic is about art. And I read this important truth in one of your writings that creators create and consumers consume. And I have seen it. It's a bad feeling when one trying to do some art and suddenly you want to buy. You face the options, the markets, the shopping, or the mass consumption. So it is very bad. So what are your thoughts on art in this context of captivity and freedom?
Okay, so my understanding is that the person could have two sets of mind in different direction. Let's say if we talk about uh, a mercantile turn of mind. So let's say in the properly organized society, certain professions must be not commercialized. Let's say a teacher who teaches and the doctor who treats the patients, the one who provide education for children, and the one who provide medical help for everyone. These two professions should do nothing with the commerce. Why? Because a person mind is designed in such a way that he could how to say, extract a personal pleasure from certain activity. Let's say that if your mind is switched in the position of making money, let's say that you turn it to the mercantile way, and you enjoy by making as much money as possible. Okay, let's say that today you make only $1,000, okay? But you believe that tomorrow you can make 2,000. Okay, tomorrow you make 2,000. That makes you happy, okay? Because that you achieve what you want. And then the next you try to achieve more and more and more. And eventually you become like an Elon Musk or like a Elon Musk, okay? Because he gets pleasure from making money. Okay, that is the first way the human how to say, human mind can uh, extract the pleasure. Okay, the second way, that is from the helping the people, because when you help the people, it will make you happy. Just the fact, when you help someone, it makes you happy. You know that. So
Yes.
let's say we talk about a doctor, the medical doctor. So the medical doctor, he gets his pleasure in his professional activity. So he saves someone's life. It makes him very happy. Okay. He, let's say, conducted a very difficult surgical operation, it makes him very happy. He makes some discovery or how to treat certain illness or just invented some medicine, it makes him very happy.
Like the joy of discovering new things to
Okay, so
the research.
Okay, so he is how to say, drawing his happiness from the fact of his professional activity.
Yeah.
The same could be applied also for the teacher, in fact. Okay. So the clever people already noticed that although many thousands years ago. I mean, these features of the psychology. That's why in the properly organized society, people who provide many medical help and the teachers must not be involved in any business. They must be maintained by the society. Means the doctor and the teacher must have a salary from the society. They must not do any business, because once they started to do any business, their mind will likely switch to the other mode. They would become businessmen. They are no longer doctor and the teacher. Okay, they don't derive pleasure from teaching or treating a patient. They derive pleasure from making a new business scheme to get more money.
Exactly, yes.
And that would be to the damage of their professional activity, because when the doctor becomes businessman, it would directly damage his professional quality. And that is the first step. And the second step, he will redesign the whole medical service to get more money. Okay, and he would invent. He would go next step. He would declare the people who are not sick to be sick, so that he could pay him. Okay,
yes.
And the one whose sickness could be treated in 1 week, he would try to extend it for 1 year, so he could get more money from that man. Okay, and so on and so on.
When they invented that drug, and that drug causes another illness,
of course, and then they will promote unnecessary vaccination, and they will promote the unnecessary medical treatment just to get more money from the pharmaceutical industry and so on. So, but that would be not on the first step. That would be the last step. The first step would be the decrease of his professional quality, and the same thing applies to the teacher. So when teacher teaches for pleasure, is the best quality. When teacher teaches for the, like in a business model, that he transformed his school or his university into the tool of making money from the students and from their parents, I mean, the quality immediately goes down. Okay, so if we talk about the turn of mind, you see that the mind could always function in 2 modes. In the creative mode, when you enjoy doing your professional activity, or in the money making mode, when you are enjoying making as much money as possible. Okay, and they are quite contradictory. They do not help each other. They damage each other. Okay, so then, and in fact, when the doctor and the teachers are good, they don't even want actually to have money from patients, because they just feel uneasy to take money from them. Because I remember how doctors were in the Soviet Union, where that was the proper model. Let's say that the medicine was free, and the doctors get paid by the state, but sometimes the patients want just to give them some present, like they save their life, so they just want to buy some, like 2 bottles of cognac, or maybe 1 box of the chocolate candies, or maybe sometimes just put in some money, and just to bring doctor, say, oh, thank you, doctor, so much, you saved my life, and the many doctors, they feel very unhappy with that. They say, no, we cannot accept that. We are working for just for free. So I mean,
No,
but
today, like that kind of doctors no longer exist.
no. Now they, for the next 35 years, they changed completely. Now all doctors are business minded, so they are just after the money only. And not only in Russia. I
The health
mean,
is worse.
maybe in North Korea that is still, that model still exists. That's why actually the quality of medicine is in North Korea is very high. But many people didn't
Right.
realize that. In fact, in Cuba also, there's very high quality of
Yes,
medicine. Yes, because of
yes,
the same
I heard.
reason. Okay. Anyway, so if we transform this, I mean, if we step from this to your question is what is the difference between the consumer and the creator? It's the same thing. So your mind either could be in the consumption mode or in the creative mode. If your mind is in the consumption mode, you cannot create. And if your mind is in the creative turn, then you will be happy with that, and you don't need any consumer goods, in fact, unless you really need them.
Actually, I didn't know, but Picasso, the painter, when he started his trend, the Cubism, it wasn't actually his initiative. It was apparently a banker, some banker that proposed him that he made that kind of new art. So, and I remember Donald Trump in his book citing him as a great example because he was making a great business. Picasso as his, and I remember his older style of painting. It was, of course, better than this Cubism trend of Picasso, but it's like that. I don't think that would be an art, but consumerism.
Yes, it looks like, and it also looks like the Freemasonic mockery, in fact.
Yes, of course,
Because
of
the
course.
Freemasons, they hate slaves, and they always want to just make mockery on them by promoting that kind of art and other stuff.
Yes, those kind of, they say that anything could be art. And the next question is, I wanted to ask you about the degenerate art exhibition of the Nazis. It is related to this thing.
Again, what?
There was this art exhibition of the Nazis,
Art
which
exhibition and during Nazi Germany. Yeah,
they called it the degenerate art exhibition.
yes. Degenerate art exhibition. Yes,
Yes,
yes.
exactly.
Yes, because you have to understand that when Hitler came to power, he in fact stole the whole German people from the Freemasons. Because how the Germany was organized before the First World War, it was like absolute monarchy, the old style, same like Russian Empire under the Kaiser Wilhelm, who was an absolute monarch. So after they kick him out as a result of the First World War, the Freemasons organized what they call Weimar Republic in the form of a juristic person. So that juristic
Yeah.
person was owned by the Freemasons as the shareholders, because it's always like that. Because many people don't realize who are the shareholders of the state in the form of juristic person. That is that are the Freemasons. So the Freemasons own the Weimar Republic, and through this Weimar Republic, they own the whole Germany, including the land and the people and the army. When Hitler came to power, what he did, you remember? He waited when President Hindenburg died, and then he declared that there would be no more president. Instead, there would be a Führer, which means a leader, that like a tribal leader. And he
Yeah.
made the whole German people and the German army to take a personal oath to him. So they have to swear to him personally. Okay, so in this way, he just transformed the Freemasonic Republic of Germany into the tribe of the people who had the leader. Do you understand? I mean,
Yes.
technically he did that. So, and after that, of course, because he realized the Freemasonic danger, he started to fight all those Freemasonic influences, like a degrading culture, degrading music. I mean, the degenerating, and all those things that, how to say, could uh,
Who
stray people away from the
put the
proper culture.
society on the, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I remember that they put also some in the art exhibition. They some statements that that art was degrading the women, for example. Uh, actually, Hitler was a painter.
Yes, he was a painter.
He
Yes.
was a painter. He was. I think art were more was more a serious issue back then. I think
Yes, he
that the one
treated it very
from
seriously. He treated seriously art and music and the dress and
today art is more like I don't know like universities. This is like that. And in the good tradition of 9/11 theology, I want to ask you
okay.
this lyrical digression that Hitler wrote that Freemasonry was a Jewish phenomenon, but I think that that is wrong. What do you think?
Again, can you repeat that because I didn't hear the first word?
That Hitler wrote Freemasonry was a Jewish phenomenon, but I
You
think
mean that
that is
Hitler
wrong.
used he tried to join the Jews and the Freemasons into the same thing? Yes.
Yeah, but I think that is wrong.
In
What
my
do you think?
opinion, that was his big mistake. He should not do that because actually he should not antagonize Jewish. It was just stupid of him. Uh, First, the second that the Jewish and the Freemasons they have diametrically opposite aims. So, like the the Jewish, I mean the Orthodox Jewish, they want to be free. They want to live according to the law of Moses, and that no one would impose on them their sovereignty. In fact, when the Jews
Yeah,
moved to the Palestine to create the state of Israel, they did not expect that they would create a state in a form of juristic person like today, who would collect more taxes than the Pharaoh during the time of Joseph in Egypt.
okay.
Okay, so what they wanted just to be like a free tribe,
Promised
with all
land.
freedoms. Okay, so that originally Jewish wanted the just complete freedom in the biblical sense, but the
Yes, the promised
Freemasons
land.
want to enslave everyone and create the new slave owning Egypt all over the world. So it means the what they want that is diametrically opposite. I don't know why Hitler decided to mix them into one. I think that was his biggest mistake. He personally did not like
Maybe
Jewish, but he should be more considerate, I think, before making this kind of.
I'm thinking that maybe some Freemasons were maybe infiltrated with him and influenced his thought.
Possibly, possibly.
Because I remember that he wrote that first he didn't hate Jews and he didn't was an anti-Semite, but then suddenly he acquired that
Actually, he began to be anti-Semite, I think, still in Austria, because if you read his book Mein Kampf, that was what he described there. That is already a very anti-Semitic views. But
yes.
why he became like that, I don't know. But that was his big mistake. He should not do that, of course.
Yes, of course, that was very bad. And continue to art. What do you think about the music? I remember you said that music has this quality to switch off the brain, like all the people with the earphones. And could you talk about music in the modern times?
Maybe I talk, but I can't remember which exactly you mean.
For example, I don't know the in the 60s. I think that this rock revolution did much harm to the. It finally destroyed the family, I think.
Yes, of course, because the music could heavily influence the mentality. When the music was classical, mostly, or like folk music, there was different mentality. And when they begin to promote that, what Hitler used to call the degenerate kind of music through the so-called mass culture, like all those music genre that came from the early 20th century and through the 20th century, ending with what they call rap. That is, they I believe they completely destroyed the mentality of people.
Yes, I think that this rock music and that revolution in music is also an well, an Freemasonic operation because
True,
even the
100%.
even the lyrics and sometimes you know that I think you use in your book some cover of some albums. And so, but nowadays they don't even try to make some nice sounds or interesting sounds like in rock music, but they now
Unfortunately,
put
yes.
this.
And even they have the some nice melody, they would still use the words that if you listen to them, you will find that is
Yes,
something.
and I want to add that it is not rock music because some people think that rock, the evil, but I think the ballads, the love songs are equally destructive for society. All the love songs and is equally destroyed.
Yeah, I'm not a big professional in that field, so probably that should be discussed not with me, but I mean, I'm a lay person, I would say that. But my humble opinion is that the all that degenerative uh, music genre that appeared in the through the 20th century were intentionally promoted by the Freemasons just to damage the brains of the slaves. That I'm sure.
Yes, and I think that music has this quality because it involves the language, the words, and uh, through the words, I think it is like maybe act subconsciously even. I don't
You
know
know that
exactly
music
how.
is something that could influence brain in a way that even the scientists of today could not explain with a certainty. Nobody knows what the music is, in fact. So people just experiment and they found that certain types of music works in certain ways, okay? But I think there is no science that could exactly understand why it is so. I think that is something beyond our understanding anyway.
Yes, yes. In the Torah, it is stated also that sounds were used, for example, for battle or for joy, and when God commanded Moshe to build the how do you say the trumpets,
Yes.
so it has some power. This music.
Yes, that's
I
why
think
actually, if you look at those militant Islamists of today, most of them, because they are very primitive, but they understand the danger of music. They tend to prohibit music just as they want to prohibit the drugs, because they just consider that is very similar to the drugs. But when it comes to the thinking Muslims like Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the leader of the Islamic Revolution in Iran of 1979, he had a different approach. He separated the music into the good one and the bad one. So
yes,
he believed that
exactly.
the marshes, the most of the type of the music used in the Nazi Germany, that was the good one. And those used in the mostly in the mass media, that is the bad one.
Exactly, and today I was thinking that in a typical totalitarian regime, like 1984, there are speakers everywhere of the totalitarian regime, but nowadays the speakers are everywhere, but it has to do with entertainment and capitalist advertising and marketing, but the speakers are everywhere.
No, in the totalitarian states, the most of the music they use the one like the military music, you know, because it makes people like active and brave and
ready to fight.
Yeah. So, and actually, when you wake up and you hear it from the morning this type of music, you feel immediately, you know, fresh and active, and actually it's good. I like that. But that music that they use now is just to make you depressed mostly.
Yes, it's very bad. It's like a torture.
Yes.
I don't know, like maybe they use torture in the rooms. I don't know. And well, Dimitri, you had a very interesting friend. Nowadays there are pictures of Mike Harari all over the internet. Well, this fake Mike Harari. So with my art skills, I wanted to contribute to put a depiction of Mike Harari as you describe him in your work, with all his intricated personality, his achievements, and as you said, a scoundrel, but with real human qualities. But let me show you something without more preamble. Here it is, a bust of Mike Harari.
You make it based on which picture?
Yes, on this one, the one.
Okay.
So I wanted to contribute to the real Mike Harari.
Okay, so the story with Mike Harari pictures is like that. Okay. Mike Harari was very careful not to provide anyone with his picture. He was really careful. Okay. So why I have that his pictures is because firstly he trusts me a lot, and at one point he want me to help him to get some passport, and for that passport needed his photo. Okay. So that is why actually I got his photo, just to send it to the people who made the passport for him. I don't know, actually he could get passport by himself, but at one point he want to get passport in some other way, okay, through me, not through his usual channels. That's why he gave me one of his photos, so to get that. That's why I had it. Okay, and the second photo, that is from the police files. I scanned it in the case file in the court with the permission of the judge. And in fact, it was not easy to get. Okay, and when it comes to the rest of pictures of Mike Harari, the story with them was like this. After the American invasion of Panama, when General Noriega was arrested and Mike Harari barely escaped. Actually, in fact, he was also arrested, but I think pay some money to the arresters so that they release him and made the story that they mistook him with his
Yes,
driver.
they let him
Yeah.
go.
So after that, Mike Harari was put on official list of the United States like a wanted. And since then, he could no longer live under his name. And around that time also that the Israeli secret services, I'm not sure it was the Israeli government or the Mossad itself, uh, applied, I mean, they, how to say, kindly requested from every mass media outlet around the world to surrender all existing photographs of Mike Harari. So by the year of 1990 or 1991, they managed to collect all photographs of Mike Harari just from every mass media outlet around the world, and of course from the Israeli mass media as well.
Why? Because to protect him.
To protect him, yes. And they pay good money for that. And of course, even if someone keep a copy of what they surrendered to Israeli government, they could not use it because they got money for that. You know, like it was they that was like some contract, like non-disclosure contract. Let's say that CNN made the deal with the Israeli government. They say, okay, we surrender all photos of Mike Harari, and we keep none of them, and we sign the contract and we get the money or whatever, some other preference. I'm not sure which way they deal, but even if they keep illegal copy after that, they could not use it, okay, because that will be the breach of the contract. Okay, so by the year of 2000, absolutely no photo of Mike Harari could exist anywhere in the internet, because the Mossad was very careful not to allow his photo to circulate. But once I published my book, and where I added these two photos, one from the police file and one from my own collection, which one was for the passport for him,
Yes.
they have to somehow to counteract that, okay? So they made like a insertion of alleged photos of Mike Harari here and there to make it look natural, so that the people would look at the photos I have and the photos they found in the internet, compare them, and say, oh, this guy is just provide the photo of another person. So we should not believe him at all. And also we should doubt about the nuclear demolition of the World Trade Center, which is the most important. Okay. So that is just like a kind of trying to damage my reputation, in fact.
Yes, and besides the factions of the fake Mike Harari, it doesn't seem like someone capable of doing all these things. Well, it seems like an actor. I don't know.
Yes, but in fact, he was, of course, he did not do it alone personally, but he was involved in, at least. And the problem is, you know, that in the next day of the September 11, that was what 12 September morning time in Bangkok time, and America it was still night. He invited me for the celebratory breakfast with a wine, okay? And the problem is, you can't imagine if, okay, you know that the Israeli people, they are very sensitive about the terrorism and the terrorist attack. Can you imagine that the Israeli person is happy or celebrating some terrorist act? It's not possible, you know. They are too sensitive for that. But this
Yes.
man was dancing, believe me. He was dancing and drinking and just like,
And
okay, yeah, of course he could not do it alone, but he was definitely involved.
could be Mike Harari seen as a mafioso? Well, in the sense you explain mafia, some groups who deny the ungodly society.
Uh, It's hard to say because when I talk to him, I mean during our conversations on different topics,
Because
he actually
he was a
appears
rebel.
he actually appears not like a slave. He appears like a man of the old style, like just the kind of people that you can trust. Okay, you like he does what he promises basically, and he is not hesitate using weapons and even in illegal weapons. I mean, he is not the type of the slavish mentality of today. He is more like of the man of the 20s or of the early 30s. I mean, that type of mentality. And but to which extent he could be called mafia, I don't know.
And did he express his thoughts on the Freemasons' influence on the Mossad and the CIA?
No, we did not discuss that, but at least he said that his father was the Freemason. Yes.
And which were his views on this on the Freemasonry?
Sorry.
Which when you discuss Freemasonry with him, which were his views?
No, we don't discuss the Freemasons much, just maybe sometimes only, just like in some
All right, all right.
limited connections, I would say. Not like we discuss it with you like now. No.
Yeah. And about Harari, which were his leitmotifs?
Again?
I mean, for slaves, for example, the only motive of high-ranking people they can think about is money, but there are higher motives in life. For example,
Sorry,
vengeance.
I could not understand.
I mean, his life motives, like, for example, high-ranking people or rich people, usually they want power and money, but I think that there are other life
Okay,
motives. For
okay.
example, from the Apostle Paul, there is the grace from God,
Uh-huh.
maybe vengeance,
You
revenge.
mean about his own position on that? You ask that?
About yes, about his drive to life, like
Okay,
he.
okay. So when I knew him and when we talked to him, he did not express his opinion on that because he was an old man already. He doesn't need anything, I think. So he was just like in a very philosophic mood and like to talk about the philosophy and about the old politics and about some vengeance, like he hate Americans because they kicked him from the CIA because he worked 10 years in the CIA and they kicked him. And I mean he bears some grudge against Americans in fact. And
Yeah,
and against some Arabs also, like Yasser Arafat. And but I mean, he could discuss that, like like he's happy to exercise some avenge against someone, or uh, he like to talk about philosophy, but he like to talk about women because even he was old, he still like women. But mm, to say about
you
that
mentioned.
about the power, I never heard this from him. In fact, I think maybe he was already not ambitious at that time.
Because you mentioned that because of uh, a talk with him about some moral issue in the business he proposed to you,
Yeah,
you
he proposed, and that was very close, nearly, I mean, to close to the end of our relations. But he proposed to because that Bangkok was a long time of a transit hub for the illegal refugees. So a lot of people came to Bangkok from the Arab countries and also from Pakistan and also sometimes from China. And they want to go to other countries like Europe or America. And the way they go there is just like they use the fake passport with their photographs just to board the plane in Bangkok. And when they arrive to the country of their destination in the airport, they just tear the passport and just destroy it and let's say that sink it down in the toilet. And then they say, okay, we are refugee, we have no passport. And we are Arabs and they cannot kick them out because there's no passport and they don't know where they come from. And this business was quite good before in Bangkok. And the people who specialized in this, I mean, in Bangkok, there was like a big criminal group that was specializing in producing fake passports. Sometimes the passports were just like a fake blanks printed anew. So it means you can write any name. But sometimes they could have mistakes compared to the original passports. But some passports were just bought from some junkies, like like people come to Bangkok, let's say that they spent all their money and they still need some other doors, so they sell their passport to the local gangsters just for some extra cash. So, and there was like a big secondary market of the passports sold by the other people. So then the name is already there, only need to change the photograph. So in Bangkok, there were both passports circulating. The first one is called #1, and no, the one when it's original, but someone's passport is called #1. But the other one, the fake one, the blank printed locally, that's called #2. In fact, that is the Mossad jargon, but all the gangsters in Bangkok used this kind of how do you call it, terminology. And
Terminology.
and of course Mossad was heavily penetrating this business because they just always do this kind of business, and also that allows them to control the Arabs moving here and there. So, and what Mike Harari offered me, he offered me to open it's like an agency that to invite those people who want to go to like United States or some other European countries on the fake passports, and that he said that we will do money in two ways. One way by selling them the fake passports and arranging their trip, and the second way that he say we will also inform the police of the state where they are going to and get extra money also from them. Okay. So I say, no, thank you so much. I cannot do this kind of business. But that was one of his proposals, I mean.
So it was a moral issue.
Yeah, that is a bit too much for me. But for him, probably it was okay.
Right.
And
well, now passing to the topic of religion. I remember one thing I learned from you was the fact that in the passage of the Bible, when the adulterous woman was apparently saved from being stoned to death, it's actually not an original one, but added. It is John 8.
yes.
So could you talk about the implications of this fact in today, how do you say, in the emancipation and the destruction of family?
You know that in the Bibles printed in the West, in that part of the Bible you mentioned, they usually put some footnote or special mark saying that this part was probably not genuine, and because the original confirmed genuine edition of the eldest Bible do not contain that. But in the Russia, they didn't do that. It's no notice at all. They just insert it into the text as is. And the popes of the Russian church, the priests of the Russian church, we call them popes in Russia, they use it very heavily as a moral example to justify the, how to say, the so-called peaceful slavish nature of the people there should be. So they say, oh, you have to forgive this and forgive that and forgive even that. And look, even Jesus forgave that woman and so on. So basically, they just use that to authorize not even the promiscuity, they to authorize the adultery, because that in that case they talk about adultery.
Yes,
But
adultery.
in fact, if you look at this insertion of the Bible with the eyes of a professional, you will notice that something is missing. Because according to the Bible, according to the law, the one who commits adultery must be killed, both of them, a woman and her lover. Okay? So now the question is, they brought a woman to him, and where is the lover? Why they didn't bring him?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if he is not around, then what proof they have? Do they have that she was caught with him? You know, that is very contradictory.
And about these so-called Christians are implying that every degenerate of today has already the forgiveness, but
Yes, of
it
course,
could be
because according to their teaching, they say that okay, everyone is already forgiven, even including the cheaters and even the sodomites. They even have the sodomic churches, the churches of sodomites. They have that, how they call it, gay church.
yes, and allow also the emancipation of the women of today. I think it is very useful for them.
Of course.
Let me read this passage from the scripture. When I read this translation, I thought I have to share it with you.
Okay.
See, this is what I found, say Kohelet, item by item in my search for the reason of things. As for what I sought further but did not find, I found only one human being in 1,000, and the one I found among so many was never a woman.
So
That
means he
is
found one righteous man among 1,000 and no women of them at all. I see, as far as I can recollect, it was saying something like that.
yes, and these translations uses the word I found only one human being in 1,000, and the one I found among so many was never a woman.
But I think here the meaning is not the human being, it means a righteous, not a sinner, I mean.
Yes, and about revelations, what do you think about revelations? For example, it seems like since the prophet Muhammad of Quran, the official prophets are no longer counted in any book, or maybe saints, but what about?
But you see, in Apocalypse, in the Revelation, it says that they use the word prophet. So, and obviously it should be after Muhammad.
Yes,
So it's questionable,
yes,
highly questionable.
but of course, nowadays they should be revelations too.
But on the other hand, the word prophet, they might have a different sense, like prophet, the one who comes with a new revelation, like Muhammad with Quran, is one thing. But it could be just a prophet, like doing something from God, but not bringing any new book or something like that. I mean, on the smaller scale compared to Muhammad. But could be the word is the same, but the meaning is different.
Yes, yes, of course. Well, they are also the false prophets that spreading lies in the church.
Yes.
Could you talk about generosity and charity in the moral sense? Since
I don't know
I
what
see
exactly.
a falsification about this term could be also a falsification nowadays.
But I don't understand the question. Can you say exactly what you
Uh,
want to hear?
could you talk about the terms generosity and charity in the moral sense? What implies, for example, generosity and charity?
I think the people should be generous and share his wealth with those who are in need. I think it's very obvious.
Right.
But that should not be misinterpreted because you remember how Jesus Christ treated the woman who was chasing him and complaining that her daughter was
Yes, the one from Canaan.
yes, and do you remember what he answered? He did not answer a word. That was the proper approach because she was not among the believers. And when his disciples begin to ask him that please do something for that woman because she is chasing us, you remember what he answered? He answered that it's not good to take a bread from the children and throw it to the dogs.
Yes.
Yes, so when we analyze the matters of charity, we should understand that.
And in also because that passage is in other the apostles one say that Jesus said that he came to save the children of Israel and not
Yes,
not of the Canaan.
yes. He
So
basically he mean that he was sent to the believers.
of course the believers,
Yeah.
of course.
So because the people around they were considered as unbelieving dogs, because you know that the term dog was in those days considered as like a word to call the unbelievers around. They were called dogs and pigs. You remember that what he said that don't throw the pearl before your pigs, before the pigs, and don't throw any things to the dogs. That's the meaning about the unbelievers. In fact, the unbelievers were called dogs until the 20th century. When I was still young, I still remember that in my country, because Russia is a Christian country. So let's
Yes.
say that in the Christian countries, they still believe that the unbelievers are dogs, just like that.
But what I see in these official churches is that they trying to promote that people, the believers, supposed to tolerate these unbelievers, but they don't see this passage when Jesus was calling this woman, basically a dog.
Yeah, he yes, basically yes, and not only her. In fact, he called all those kind of people dogs and the pigs when he say don't throw pearls before the pigs.
Yes,
I
yes,
mean,
I think
quotation.
there is much misinterpretation in the Christianity. For example, also there is one when he said that suppose one should forgive, to pardon his brother many times, and if he didn't repent or make the right thing, you must see that brother as a heathen. That means as an unbeliever.
Yes.
Yeah. And do you think the end of the world is something desirable? I mean, as a solution, like a new flood, because all this degenerate society.
I think it is coming very soon. So that's all I can say. Because there are all indications of it, including the acceleration of the time. Because the time accelerated very rapidly, especially for the last few years. But the acceleration became to be noticeable at the end of the 90s. And since then, it became faster and faster and faster and faster. And this is the best indication.
Or yes, maybe it could be also that this society is a punishment because the people who were the people who must be righteous somehow uh, forsake or abandon God. Could be a punishment, maybe.
I think their punishment would be in the next world, not in this world. And this world will be just the end.
The judgment, you mean?
Yes.
All right. And uh, which activities are allowed in the Sabbath? Because I have seen many discussions
Oh,
in religious
that is
affairs.
very difficult to say because the Orthodox Jewish who are very tough on it, they just claim that everything is prohibited to the extent that you can't, you feel like enslaved actually in this day because you can't do
Make
this and that and that and that and that. But in my opinion, only the everyday activities should be prohibited, like your work, like you do the work every day, and you should not do that work on Saturday, except maybe teaching, because teaching maybe is okay. But the Orthodox Jewish, they believe they can't even take a pen and write down some notice.
Yes, I have seen it. That even to make a fire
Not to
things
make a
like that.
fire. You see, like I have a pen in my pocket. They can't even have a pen in their pocket on Saturday. They have to remove it. Okay?
Yes, I have
And
seen it.
if, for example, they are not allowed to make a fire, they would start the fire a day before. Like for example, in some Orthodox communities, they have a special design for the lift so that they just go automatically and stop in every floor so that the people don't need to press the buttons of them.
Uh, uh, uh,
Like for
uh,
example, let's say that if you enter a lift, the cabin of a lift, and you have to press the floor number, the button, they
all right.
consider it as a work. So their lifts are designed in a way that they just on Saturday they will just go automatically and stop in every floor. So the people don't need to press the button. But do you understand? There is just the cheating of themselves.
Yes, yes. But, for example, to do a painting, do you think, but not selling it, but just doing, do you think it could be
I am not quite sure, but in my humble opinion, as long as it is not your everyday works that you are making money on and you are just like your hobby, that should be another story. Maybe you are just relaxing in that way and enjoying in that way. It should not be
yes,
considered as work.
yes, of course. And what else? So I heard one time that you said that this world could be an experiment, a test.
This world is an experiment. Of course, it is obviously experiment. Even if you read the Bible, you will understand that. Because the God sent the people to this world, making them mortal, to check whether they would choose the good or evil, having the freedom of choice. Of course, it
Yes,
is an experiment.
yes, in the Torah it is stated many times that that God tasted men to know if they were righteous
Yes, of
and
course.
keep firm in the faith. Well, the next topic, when I read your book, I found this more explosive than nuclear demolition
Okay.
scheme. This one is on plain sight. Modern women under men. I see female emancipation leads to very bad order in society, a decadent society and degeneration, because
Okay.
after all, it is the way prescribed by God. So even high classes now get this respectful, instinctive harlots instead of the submissive, servile women. So my question is, if you think this is something that Freemasons got out of control.
It's very hard to say because you know that the achievement of replacing the good with evil and the evil with good, and not just simple replacement, but calling good evil and evil good, that is more dangerous, in fact. Because when you are plainly create evil or do evil, this one is not so dangerous. It's much more dangerous when you claim that the evil is no longer evil. That is much more dangerous. Means you are already taking the right to establish the concepts from God and make your own concepts of good and evil. And that is more dangerous. So I believe that is the satanic work, first of all, because the Satan is the one who is in charge of doing so. But the Freemasons, they are just a satanic sect. And when the proceeds of their achievements begin to be damaging their own power, let's say when they corrupt their own slaves to the extent that they no longer want to have children, means they will not have slaves in the next generation, they would suffer, okay? So that I believe that how to say the aims of the Freemasonic sect and the aims of Satan might contradict each other. So I believe that at some point the Freemasons want even to play back certain things.
To reverse?
To reverse, yes. I mean, like for example, to reduce the corruption among women and to slow down the emancipation. But I don't think it is possible because I think that it went too far to be stopped.
Yes, like it's like very bad today, everything. But as you said, propaganda could be aimed to instill these notions of obedient women, but it is not the case.
It should be done 50 or 60 years ago, I believe. Let's say that if you do that propaganda in the 50s to counteract the sexual revolution, or you do it in the, let's say, 30s when the Hitler's time, yes, then it worked. But with that kind of female corruption as of today, and with this kind of militant feminism, I think it would not work. It's too
Possible.
late.
But yes, and it is exactly as you said, that the people who called good evil and evil good. It is also stated in the book of the prophet Isaiah. He said exactly that. But it's very bad situation now. There are even female cops to humiliate the citizens.
Yes,
It's very bad, very bad.
yes.
And uh, and also the women are wicked in the weaker in the faith. They uh, they promote sins and
Of course.
uh, the, how you say some unbeliever behavior that is. I think that they should be watched because, for example, in Job, as I quoted Job, when Job got all his sufferings, suddenly uh, in the scripture is very well depicted the nature of women when his wife is trying to make him blaspheme against God, but he rebuked her and called her a shameless woman because he maintained his faith. But yes, it is like that.
Yes.
Well, so I think that's it, Dimitri.
Okay, so if you want to continue some other time, let me know. We can record the other series of that. I hope that
Yes, I was thinking that maybe we could talk about another another time about the words, the meaning of the words, because uh, today's today the terms are almost falsifications, and I have seen that you make this analysis of the words and trying to preserve the old the old meaning, like in your dictionary request that
yes.
was mastery, but also in other terms like family and
Yes, but you know that because I mostly do things in Russian language, and in Russian language is a bit different because the etymology of the Russian words is different compared to English, and the useful words might be different. So, I mean, it is not easy to directly extrapolate the things I do in Russian to the English.
yeah.
Because in English it should be done in its own way. But certain words, yes, they could be compared, and certain approaches could be compared. Let's say that if we talk about that, continue the topic of the corruption of the family values and the females. Let's say that when people use the word husband, they didn't really understand its meaning. Let's say that one woman say, okay, this man is my husband. Okay, what she means? She means that this man is just my slave who is protected by the state and by the court, and whom I can screw and I can divorce and take half of his money and half of his house, and he will still have to pay me every month the alimony. Okay, when she says that this man is my husband, she means that. Okay, but in reality, if you look at the etymology and the true meaning of the English word husband, you will find that it means the owner, because the husbandry is a kind of the ownership. So the husband
Yes,
is just means the owner. It means like the slave owner, basically.
of course.
Okay, but when they use this word, they didn't mean the meaning.
Yes,
Let's say,
and today I have seen that even they generate that word to women say the word hobby or something like that to their men, to their slaves.
okay, and
Very-
if Let's say that in Russian language they use another way. I mean, in English there is no equivalent of it, but I'll try to explain. In English they just say married for the both man and the woman when they talk about marital status. But in Russian, when they talk about men, they say married. But when they talk about the woman, they will say she is behind husband. That will be the expression on the female part. Like if they say about the man, they will say this man is already married, or this man is married to a certain woman. But when they talk about the woman, they would say she is under a husband. Oh, not under, sorry, behind husband. She is behind husband. And the true meaning of it is that the woman has no legal rights and no even property rights. She is just absolutely behind her husband, and he represents her in every situation. That's the true meaning of the literal meaning of that word. Okay, but nowadays people, both male and female, use that expression that she is behind her husband. Oh, she is behind her husband, without even understanding what the words mean. Same like that in English, when they use the word husband, they use it without understanding. And this kind is, you can analyze many situations and many words that they use in an improper way.
Yes, in a proper way, and it leads to the behavior directly. I think that people don't realize how powerful the way we speak daily is affecting all the situations.
Of course. But in English, there is
And
another example. In English, we don't have that in Russian, but there's in English. In English, they say father-in-law, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, son-in-law. Okay, they use it without thinking. But in reality, in which law? In law, that means not the British law, not the American Constitution. That means a common law.
yes,
A common law, the God's law. But they use it without the realization what they are talking about.
yes, of course. And yes, there are many things that still maintain that quality, but people are not using it. And also about you talk about the legal rights. I was reading the scripture the other day when Israel was going to the battle and to conquer his enemies, and the officials addressed them as calling, if one man has already paid the bride price, and let him return lest he die in battle, because and that in the footnote is an explanation that the bride price means that he has taken the women legally, but still not married her, and that but that things are no longer in the mind of today's so-called believers.
Yes. But you know that there are some countries where it is still practiced, because the payment for the bride, that is very standard in all cultures around the world, not necessarily in the Abrahamic religions. It is in the Shintoism and in Buddhism, even, and in Hinduism, but Hinduism mostly the women pay, but they still have the understanding of that. And you see, like, I live now in Thailand. In Thailand, the bride price is still paid. That is still widely practiced, and this is the very important part of the Thai traditional marriage. It is even recognized by the court. Okay, in China, despite the China is being communist since the end of the Second World War, the bright price is still paid, and is legally recognized also. So, but the other point is that they no longer have understanding that the bright price is just like you buy the woman to be your property, because formerly she was a property of her father, but once you pay the bright price, she becomes your property. Okay, they didn't realize that. So now it become like just the part of the traditional marriage or something like that. By the way, in Russia, they realize it very well. That is why in Russia it is prohibited and criminalized. You see, like China is a communist country, but the paying the bride price is not criminalized. It is very legal and even recognized by the courts in China. But Soviet Union was also a communist country, similar to China. But the paying the bride price is criminalized. So if you open the Russian penal code, you will find the penal code article saying that paying a bride price or demanding a bride price is a crime punishable by the imprisonment. Because in Russia, they realize it very well that when pay a price for the bride, that is a kind of slavery. That's because you buy a woman in this way. So they want to criminalize it, and they criminalized it, and it is still in the penal code of today's Russia. But it was started by the communists. But communists in Russia, but not the communists in China. In China, they are okay with that.
But you in Russia have this writing or regulations, the Domostroy.
Yes, they used to have it because that book is, I think, like a few centuries old. But in the modern Russia, it is considered an absolutely unacceptable, totalitarian, medieval, xenophobic, xenophobic, how to say, chauvinistic book, not suitable for the modern person. So if someone talks about Domostroy, that is almost it is perceived by the environment the same like he would talk about the Hitler's Mein Kampf, maybe even worse than that.
Well, I want to comment that also in the this fashion disease that happened some years ago that is not longer in fashion today. I have seen that one thing that got affected was the customer service because today employees they were granted like code-like rights to, for example, to say that the customers must wear their masks. But I have seen that it also affected the customer service in general, and I see that prostitution was also affected by that because it is related to customer service. So I think prostitution is now taken because everything is taken
You mean about the
with this.
prohibition of the prostitution?
Well, not like prohibition, but I think that the customer service got affected generally. So I was thinking the other day that in general, I see in the stores, in everywhere, the customer service is not what used to be. So I was
Okay.
thinking prostitution would be
Oh,
affected.
I think yes, the customer service, especially in European country, it's actually is going down a lot, and not only because of the recent events with the COVID. I think it goes down for the last half century probably because the European and American native peoples begin to feel that they are too much high to be a good servants. But in Asian countries like in Thailand and Vietnam, I think it is still okay. It's still on the high quality. But when you talk about the prostitution, I don't think it should be compared directly to the quality of the customer service, because that is entirely different field. So it should be discussed separately.
Well, Dimitri, I think that's it.
Okay, so let's end on this point then. Okay, so
I
if you
appreciate
have any plans to make a second series of our discussion, you let me know and we will record it. And
Yes, of
thank you very much for organizing this interview. I think people will enjoy our conversation, probably,
yes,
and at least I hope so. And
yes.
thank you very much. And do you have any YouTube channel of your own or any other resource?
Well, I'm planning to open one from my art, but I'll
Okay,
let you know.
so once you open your channel or whatever resource, you please try to open it as soon as possible and let me know the links. So I will publish the links under this video, so you can find the sources of Mr. Zeev Ben Levi and visit him. And
I appreciate your time, and I hope this is
you are welcome.
useful. And
Okay.
so,
Thank you very much and goodbye.